Margaret Wise Brown, author of the beloved story Goodnight Moon, pioneered many changes in children's literature. Her creative and brilliant mind led to push the boundaries of printing techniques, many of which are still used today. The baby boom that followed the end of World War II led to huge increase in children's book sales. Rocketing sales meant that there were extra dollars in publishers' pockets to experiment with new printing techniques, and that fed Margaret Wise Brown's imagination. Pop-ups, die cuts, shaped books, and novelty add-ons were a few of the creations that Margaret handcrafted so she could visually share her unique ideas with her publishers. Margaret's collection of homemade book samples include one for a book about color. She used color paper and foils to illustrate her vision for this text that was to add a tactile element to the story. One of Margaret's most dynamic manuscripts was North, South, East, West. It was the tale of a little bird that leaves his nest in search of new lands. This book idea, though, would be too expensive for any publisher to produce because it was to be bound on 4 sides and the pages to be cross-cut. That way, the book could open in all directions. When the flaps were opened, a paper barn popped up and a horse-shaped weather vane spun on a toothpick. This wonderful story finally came to life more than 60 years later through Greg Pizzoli's amazing illustrations. Another clever idea she had was to wrap her book, The Little Fur Family, in actual fur. To sell her editor, Ursula Nordstrom, on the concept, she hand-sewed a sample covered in rabbit fur. Harper advertised it to the publishing industry as the year's knockout for the nursery trade. Publishers Weekly declared it to be the most novel of novelty books since Pat the Bunny. The retail price was $1.75, and a mink version was available on a limited basis for $15. Harper printed 75,000 copies, and fortunately, parents and children found the book irresistible. Unfortunately, though, the moths in Harper's warehouse did too. Their next edition replaced the real fur with a regular cloth cover and later a less tasty faux fur. The book remains a steady seller 70 years later. Margaret worked with her publishers to create promotions that would be sure to get the attention of parents and reviewers. Margaret and Leonard Weisgard's Little Lost Lamb came with a full-color poster that was suitable for framing. Advertisements promised the removal of the poster would not damage the book in any way. Margaret's Don't Frighten the Lion included a paper cutout of the story's main character, a little dog who wanted to go into the zoo but wasn't allowed to enter. The paper dog could be dressed in a straw hat, sunglasses, a floral dress, and gloves, a disguise the dog used in the story to get past the zoo's guard. Margaret also thought of new ways to make her books stand out on bookstore shelves. She asked that some of her books be published in oversized editions. That way, she said, bookstore customers couldn't help but notice the book. Harper's marketing campaign for Runaway Bunny involved mailing postcards to toy store customers, advertisements in trade magazines, and consumer ads promoting the book as the perfect Easter gift. They also mailed pre-publication press packets to newspapers and librarians containing unbound pages of the colorful book. This worked well. Stores stocked the book heavily, and newspapers and librarians wrote dozens of glowing reviews. The New York Herald declared its text and illustrations to be in complete collaboration and described how the duel between the mother bunny and her little bunny turned into a duet. It was so rare at the time to have animals act as the main character in a picture book that the reviewer believed it necessary to assure parents that, although these are bunnies in the story, any child will identify at once with the bunny. A librarian from Salt Lake County mounted the unbound pages from the press packet to large boards to enhance her reading of the book during the library's story time. The oversized book was such a hit that Harper eventually pioneered the big book format. Margaret loved all the attention and praise her books were getting. She hired a newspaper clipping service to send her reviews of her books and other articles mentioning her. The service read through hundreds of papers and cut out each review, tagged it with the name of the paper, and stamped a date on the attached tag. Margaret dutifully kept each one, gluing them into an ever-expanding scrapbook. For more information about Margaret or to see pages from her scrapbook, subscribe to our channel.